Ernie Ball presents How to Musician with Cory Wong.
Something she said to my baby. Both working all night, all day long.
I bet you're wondering why I'm hiding out here in this bush. See, I'm trying to stay out of the way of the singer.
Every time
I don't want to do anything that's going to draw focus away from them, because that's what a good sideman does.
it's gonna be wrong.
You see, the role of a sideman is to support. Nothing too loud, nothing too flashy. Everything I play is meant to make them sound better.
To get you tomorrow.
And as a matter of fact, if I do my job exactly the way I'm supposed to, nobody will notice that I'm even here.
Hey, get out of my bushes!
Shh, I'm sidemanning.
I don't care what you're doing. You're trampling my flowers.
Some don't. Come on, man. What are you doing?
Every Sherlock has its Watson. Every Simon has its Garfunkel. Every Lilo has its Stitch, and every Abercrombie has its Fitch. The role of the sideman is a sacred one. To support, to elevate, to enhance what's happening without pulling focus away from the main subject. Some may view sidemanning as less important or less creative. I disagree. Restriction breeds creativity. It's a framework, not a cage. Sure, Samwise didn't carry the ring to Mordor, but do you think Frodo would have gotten there without him? No friggin' way! This video is a salute to the art of the unsung hero, the art of the sideman. All right, now look, I just want to acknowledge that I'm not trying to be uninclusive when I say the term sideman. I want to be sensitive to that and acknowledge that, but I don't know what the gender neutral term is, so let me know if you have a better term.
What does it take to become a good side musician? I think first, it's that you need to have a good understanding of the role. You are being asked to come along and help bring someone else's vision to life. They have a vision for something they want to execute, and they think that you're the right person for the job. That's pretty cool, but it also ties back to ego and humility. You first need to have an understanding that it's somebody else's vision, and they're hiring you to come alongside. Now the reality is, you may not have been the first call. You might have been the third or the fourth call. So right there alone is cause enough for you to probably let go of some of your own ego, because I myself have been the third call or the second call or the fifth call. And I myself have hired people that are the third or fourth call because the first 1, 2, 3, or 4 people weren't available. That's the reality of it, but that doesn't demean the role any less, and that doesn't mean that there's any less expectation. For me, when I get hired as a sideman for something, I try to have a good understanding that I am being paid to do a job. One of the first things I like to do when playing for a new artist or band or something like that is really try to dive deep into what their vision is, what their history is as an artist. So I like to listen to their back catalog of things, and then also listen to a lot of live shows from different eras. So if a band has been around for 15 years or 5 years, listen to what the concerts were like 5 years ago, 2 years ago, 6 months ago. And YouTube is a wonderful place for that. There's been a couple gigs that I've had where a music director sent me material for the first rehearsals of a tour, and some of it was just the studio recordings. And when I went on YouTube and I looked at the last couple tours, I noticed that the arrangements were a little bit different than the studio recordings. So I learned them both. And whether those arrangements happen or not doesn't matter. What you've done is your homework. In case there's any curveball that's being thrown at you, you are ready to hit it. Understanding and finding your role as a supporting cast member can sometimes be kind of difficult, but as long as you live by the principle of everything you do needs to help make the leader sound and look better, that's it. Everything you do should make the leader of the band or the artist that you're playing for, absolutely everything that you play and do and the way that you conduct yourself when you're out on tour should make them look better. So that means on stage, the decisions you make musically need to support them and help them shine as a star. Also, be aware that when you are on the road, you And every person on the crew, every person in the band represents that artist, not only musically, but also personally. So that means after the gig, everybody goes out to a bar or something afterwards, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, James Taylor's drummer likes to cheat at foosball and like doesn't pay his bar tab. That all of a sudden looks bad on James Taylor, and he didn't even do anything bad. You need to understand that when you are a supporting cast member in these kind of situations, the reality is your actions, the things that you say, the musical and life decisions that you make while you're out on the road with another artist, for better or worse, reflect on that artist. And that's actually also why it's so hard to find really good people and the right person for a job. Because although somebody might be a great musical fit for an artist, they might be a complete disaster to work with on the road. And they might be a completely different type of person than what that band wants to associate with, for better or worse. The way that we conduct ourselves off the stage is very important because it sounds kind of cliche, but the reality is the 23 hours that you spend off stage are just as important as the 1 hour that you spend together on stage. And that might sound like it's coming from the band leader side, but truthfully, for me, as somebody who's been hired to come along on other people's tours, I think it's really important to align myself on a personal level with that artist's vision, not only musically, but in some sense of just how they like to live life. What kind of morals do they live by? Because the speed of the leader is the speed of the team. And the way that the leader conducts themselves, the way that they try to run their operation is going to directly reflect how I feel when I'm on the road as somebody who's hired to be a part of their organization, whether it be for a long-term commitment or whether it just be for a 2-week run.
They say a man's gotta do what a man's gotta do. But what the heck kind of man are you? Are you a fast car, fast motorcycle driving kind of man? Are you a stay up all night and get the job done kind of man? Or are you a side man?
Now, the way that I've talked about it is kind of like, oh, you just have to follow the band leader, this and that. But it doesn't mean that it completely stifles you creatively, because the band leader is just the one that's creating the playground. They're the one that's the architect of the playground. They decide where the slides go, where the monkey bars go, and you play within that thing. So find a way to be creative. Find a way to not compromise who you are as a person, who you are as a creative within the context of somebody else's thing. Find a way that you can really express who you are and what you want to say within the playground that they've built. That can be a really fun challenge because you all of a sudden have this new space that you have to find yourself within, but also be creative in that space. I've gone on certain gigs where I've had warnings ahead of time. Oh man, be careful working with he's super picky. He doesn't like this, or man, it's gonna be really hard to please them. What I realize is not every band leader's picky. Sometimes they're just particular and they want things done a certain way and they communicate a certain way. Some band leaders communicate conceptually. They talk about conceptual terms. Other band leaders talk about specific arrangement, orchestration things. The and of one, the E of two, a 4/5 chord instead of a sus chord. It's that sort of thing. Sometimes people are going to have different ways that they communicate. It's your job to understand how to receive that communication and help usher that process along for the artist. And also, how can you communicate what you need to best do your job and to best serve the situation that you're in? Communication is super important in these settings. Understand the preferences of the person who's hiring you. Understand what kind of music they like. What's their taste in what's too busy or not enough stuff happening? What's too jazzy or too heavy or too simple or too poppy? Everybody's got different preferences in all these different realms that make up what their taste is. And it's going to benefit you a lot to really try to understand the preferences and taste palette of the people that you're working with. And again, it doesn't at all mean that you need to compromise your own taste or preferences. It's just understanding somebody else's so you can communicate in a way and perform in a way that's gonna really bring the vision alive. The other thing about communication that's really important is to be upfront about what your expectations are on how you're gonna get paid, how much you're gonna get paid, when you're gonna get paid. Are there rehearsals involved? And are you being paid for those rehearsals? Or is it just like an all-in-one package deal for a tour? Or is it a per show thing? And is it a salary thing, which is a completely other situation that most people don't get into? But there's a lot of considerations to take. And the more communication you have on the business side of things, the less chances are of something awkward on that side of things can happen. Because the reality is, a lot of bands or artists will get into weird situations because they haven't communicated enough about the financial situation. And to close things off, the general principle that I really hope that you take away from this is try to understand your role. When Ozzy Osbourne hired Randy Rhoads to play in his band, he didn't hire somebody to just sit in the background and play guitar parts. He needed somebody who was gonna elevate the thing and come out and also stand out and be a star in certain moments. Sometimes you're gonna be hired to do that sort of thing. Sometimes you're gonna be hired to be the person in the back, just kind of laying in the cut, in the shadows of the thing. And that can be okay too. And the more that you understand your role and the sooner that you discover and understand your role, the better that it's gonna be. Because a team won't work if it's all people that score goals, or if it's all people that just pass the ball, or a team of goalies. There's roles. Just like in sports, there's roles in a band. And the more that a band plays together, the more that they mature together, the more that those roles get solidified. And I think that's a really important thing, because whether you're being hired by somebody else or whether you're a part of a band, understanding your role and how you function in something is really important. I personally like to be part of bands where there is a leader. I don't necessarily care if I am the leader or not, but I think it's important that a leader helps establish what the roles are, and the people involved can kind of interweave and have their own place and be in their own lane that contributes in a way. And to use another cliche term, it becomes something that's greater than the sum of its parts. So whatever situation you're in right now or that you're going into, work on finding your role and work on finding happiness within your role. Peace.